I think so, because we don't have as many resolving cards.
We'll discuss that. Hello, I'm Jim Rockwell. Our program is People in Jazz, and today our man in jazz is Wes Montgomery. And many years ago, about 1959, well, it was indeed in 1959, a dear old friend with whom I had been associated and who owned a record company, which was Riverside, sent me a demonstration record of an album he was about to release. And it was a guitarist then quite unknown. It was Wes Montgomery, who since then has emerged and has become a major star, and it delights me to have watched this happen over the years, Wes. It's been nearly 10 years. It's been 9 years. But in those years, to watch this blossoming from an unknown guitarist from Indianapolis to the major star that you are. And I remember so fondly the things on Riverside West, because I think in all of the years that that company existed, with Bill Grover's death, that the company ended, but I think in all of the years that Riverside existed, they never knowingly released a bad album, and that is a rare company that does this. A rare company. So many companies, they'll release a thing, they don't really believe it's that great, but it'll sell, do it. Now, I'm not suggesting that every album they ever made was great, but if it didn't come off bad, it isn't because they didn't try.
Right.
I mean, if it did come off bad, it isn't because they didn't try to make a good album. Everything they did was intended.
They believed in what they were doing.
Art for art's sake and a good album.
Right.
And they had such great faith in Wes Montgomery, and they had such insight in being the first to record you.
Right.
That happened because Cannonball Adderley heard you in Indianapolis and went back and told the Riverside people. He said, this man in Indianapolis is playing guitar till you wouldn't believe. Now, this is the way most unknown players become known, I think, as itinerant musicians, traveling around the country as you do now. When you get in a local town, you hear somebody and you go back to New York and say it. When you travel around the country, Wes, and indeed now you travel all over the world, do you listen to players wherever you go?
Every chance I get, but we've been working so much, it's hard to get out to hear other groups and other fellows. I hear some guitar players now and then, upcoming guitar players, and sounding good.
Where have you heard somebody? Who does someone come to your mind now that you've heard? An unknown guitarist that's playing someplace unnoticed?
Yeah, Joe DiArio from Chicago. Have you heard of him?
No.
He's together. And but I think the most fantastic guitar player I've heard was Nelson Simon. Is in Montreal, Canada. Oscar Peterson told me about him. Coltrane told me about him. Horace Silver told me about him. Also, most of the major musicians has told me about him. So I figured he must be great. And I played there one week, and I had a chance to hear him. So I couldn't burn my guitar up because I was working. So. Boy, that was... If you ever come here, it's over.
Oh, really?
See, now, you probably don't believe this, do you?
No,
because I sort of...
never doubted you in my life.
But I sort of felt like, you know, you can feel like a guy is good, sure. You know, it could excite somebody. That's sort of the way I felt, but it's much more than that. He's got a new approach to the instrument, new direction. For instance, he played chords as fast as a lot of guys play lines.
Well, you do this.
No. I mean, play them. I mean, he'd make all the changes, all of them. I mean, without, like if we start off with big changes, he'd continue large changes.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. There's never anything like that. And he's always crying. He's always telling me, oh, I'm not ready. I can't get myself together. I'm talking about, yeah, that's right. It's too much, man.
How old a man is he?
I don't know. He looked like he's around 31, maybe 29, 30, 31, something like that. But he don't know his own talent. He don't know it.
Well...
So keep that in mind. Nelson Simon.
Nelson Simon in Montreal.
Montreal.
We'll ask Oscar about him when he's in town next.
Right.
But now here's the case in point. You have mentioned half a dozen musicians who have told you about this guy.
Right.
and this is the way unknown players frequently become known players, is that other players hear them.
Right.
The word spreads. Now, does it wait then for a player like one of these that you've mentioned, or like yourself, to hit on a record company about an unknown player like this? See, the reason I'm mentioning this, Wes, is that so frequently players will come to me or come to somebody and say, I want to play. What do I do?
Yeah. Well, it's not quite as easy today as it used to be. Major recording companies a while back were looking for new talent, but they don't seem to be looking for it anymore, unless it comes from the people that's in the company. I mean, outside names doesn't mean anything. Like, for instance, if I went to, I'm with A&M now, if I went to my company and said, well, look, it's a guy I think is great, I don't care what if he's saying or what. They say, yeah, great, good, come on in, have some coffee, you know? They'll go right off the subject. It's just different, that's all. Just like the same differences that a lot of the major jazz labels has sort of started their artists to put one or two commercial things on an album. They used to wouldn't do that. I mean, like Riverside was one of the ones. They didn't deviate one way or the other, but just like things change, you know. So, and that's one of the things that have changed.
You said, for instance, that this young man is unaware of his talent. This is historically what has been said of Wes Montgomery. Everyone in life has said Wes had no idea how infinitely talented the man is, because you're a self-taught guitarist.
Right.
It has also been said that in the history of the instrument there have been 3 men who have done something new, who have brought a new dimension to the instrument, and who have made an honest-to-goodness contribution to the instrument. Django Reinhardt, Charlie Christian, and Wes Montgomery. Because before you, no one played the way you play. And it's been said because you didn't know, right? Had you been a schooled guitarist, had you been taught from the very get-go to do everything according to impeccable technique, everything as it should be done, you wouldn't be the player you are, I think.
Probably not. Probably because you don't have any instructions saying that you can't do. It's all in your own mind, what you feel like doing. What do you feel like could be developed?
Not having been channeled in a traditional, track of a schooled guitarist, you were free to go.
Right.
Fortunately, you went in a beautiful way.
Fortunately.
Now this, but then this is not to say, I'm just thinking that each of these 3 men that we've mentioned, Django Reinhardt, Charlie Christian, and yourself, have all been self-taught guitarists.
Yeah, come
okay. But this is not to say that a young man aspiring to play should intentionally remain self-taught and avoid all schooling, because it's a rare man indeed who can be a self-taught player and have it come off and do something right.
Yeah. Well, in fact, I know quite a few fellows that are self-taught. But I guess like anything else, sometimes it comes off and sometimes it don't. And any part of it is rare when it comes to making any contribution at all.
Yours is a family of self-taught musicians, and we'll hear some of them now.
Great.
Pianist in the group is Wes's brother, Buddy Montgomery. The bassist is Wes's brother, Monk Montgomery. These are all self-taught players, and we'll hear the group. Play Windy for us.
Okay.
All right?
Good.
The group is beautiful, as always.
Yeah.
Watching you play, we were able with the cameras to get some tight shots on your thumb and the technique that has set you apart from other guitarists.
Mm-hmm.
There's the story about the guitarist on the West Coast who said he spent one whole day trying to slam a car door on your thumb.
You know who that was?
Who was that?
Jim Hall.
Jim Hall. Speaking of guitarists, Jim Hall. With this technique, which is unschooled, and it's pure Wes Montgomery, this technique and what you do with it, playing octaves in your solo lines, this is what has set you apart from every other guitarist in life. And as I remember the story you telling me many years ago, this came about because, first of all, playing with your thumb rather than a pick was quieter.
Yeah. Well, it didn't, like, a pick seems to have more of a piercing sound, and it's sharper. And, well, when I first started, I started with a pick, of course. Everybody else was starting with a pick. And I used to use, I liked it for my amplifier to be on, because I found out that when you practice without an amplifier for like 2 months, and then you use an amplifier, you hear more noise than you do notes. So I said, well, I'll break that habit, so I just use an amplifier all the time. But while doing that, I would go into the night practicing. And, but I forgot I was disturbing neighbors.
Yeah.
So that was very shortly brought to my attention. And so then I thought, well, I have to cut down some kind of way. But I had my amplifier really cut down. If I cut down much more, I might as well not use it. So then I set the pick on the top of the amplifier and made it much of a rounder sound, softer. So I said, well, I'll use that until I get where I can play, and then I'll use a pick. But I forgot you have to develop a pick.
Then you learned that you couldn't use a pick.
That's right.
Because you had learned to play with your thumb.
That's right.
And you couldn't use a pick.
That's right. So then I wasn't trying to be one of the best anyway. I was just playing for my own amusement. So I go through all the trouble of developing a pick when I can play my thumb when I want to play. You know?
Now, every schooled guitarist in the world knows that it's impossible to play without a pick and to play as you play.
Well, they claim the thumb is the slowest operating finger on the hand.
Yeah.
I think that's why like classical players use their thumb, but not in the same manner.
Right.
You see.
But you get incredible speed.
Yeah, well, it hurts.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, in some kind of way. It hurts.
Yeah. You get incredible speed with your thumb. But this is what has set you apart.
Yes.
This and, as I say, what you do with it. The octaves in your solo lines, again, this was a thing unheard until Wes Montgomery. How'd you hit on that?
Well, I was tuning up one day, and my guitar was always out of tune. Well, I thought it was because I had a bad guitar at that time. Bought on Lemon, but even the new one, they just don't stay in tune. So it was laid out like it would be in tune, maybe down at the lower end, but up here, within this range, it would be out of tune. So I used to take the first string and the third string and go like that and find out how close they were together, which one goes out. They're not tuned up. So while doing that, I ran a scale. Accidentally, I said, oh, it's not too bad. And so then I put them together and ran the scale again. And the only thing I could figure anything to it was just 2 notes. I said, oh, it's not too much. Then I was going to run again and check it out, and I missed it. I said, oh, come on. You know, you don't do it accidentally and make it then try to do it intentionally and miss it. You know, that's turned around the wrong way. So I had trouble ever since. Then after I got so I played the scale, I wasn't through then. I said, well, I think I'll play a melody, you know, line. Couldn't play a melody line, man. And every time when I get one thing accomplished, then I couldn't do the next step. So I said, oh, come on. You know, 2 notes, come on. You know. And I kept on until I got, so I said, well, that's not what I play solo lines with, which I couldn't do at that time. My hand just get cramps, and I take it off the guitar to still be like that. I said, you know, oh, it was horrible.
But you did make it.
Yeah, finally.
You sure did make it.
Great, man.
And when this was first heard, I remember the comment. I remember the people saying, good grief, listen to this. He's playing solo lines. He's playing octaves in solo lines. There was a story of a young guitarist who came to this country as an exchange student going to school in this country. And in Europe, he was a guitar student.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't coming here to study guitar. He was coming here to go to the university. But back home, he was a guitar student. And when he left Europe to come here, his guitar teacher in Europe said, if you are ever in a town where Wes Montgomery is playing, go and watch him. Notice the key word was watch. Huh? Go and watch him, and then come back and show me how he does that. And I've had so many guitarists comment along this same line. They listen, for instance, to your records. They hear what you're doing, but they can't, in their mind, hear the fingering that would accomplish this.
Yeah, I received a lot of letters with a piece of paper in it, drawed a guitar neck to find out what finger goes on what string, and what the process was. And at the same time, they used to study me once a month over there. All the guitar players would get together, and they would wonder, each one would put his ideas of what I was doing. So when I went to Europe, we all got together, all the top guitar players. I guess about 24, all around. And we used the music store basement, and we got together and just discussed guitar. It was amazing.
Oh, really?
It was amazing. Beautiful.
But the letters you used to get with a chart of the guitar,
yeah.
These were from European players.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they got, I forget the name of the magazines that they have in Europe, something like Downbeat over here.
Yes.
And they would have questionnaires of different guitar players and answers. And what natural, we received magazines over here. And they would, each one would comment about what they think I was, what approach they think I was using and the difference. And a lot of them felt that they come to the conclusion out of the whole group that they don't take me as a guitar player.
Oh?
I'm not a guitar player to them.
What are you?
I use it. They consider, like what their approach to the instrument, they're guitar players.
Yes.
But I don't use it as, I don't play it as a guitar.
You use
I use
it
it
as a musical instrument?
Yeah, as an instrument to project what I have in mind. So I thought that's
an interesting analogy, and perhaps holds some water.
Right,
Yes.
that's right. Because I don't know anything about the instrument. Well, I mean, you know what I mean.
I understand what you
Technically,
mean.
I don't want to know anything about it really, because it's too much. That's another field.
Yeah.
You find a lot of fellows, they spend more time. So, well, I don't think I have the right pickup. I like to pick up with so many screws in it for the magnet, and some say, well, I got the wrong bridge, and you know, when you get through, you still have to play it. You know.
Yeah.
So.
You're thinking along that line of, now, for instance, we're a good teacher to come along now and try to touch what you are doing could destroy completely what Wes Montgomery is. And it reminds me so of a story of Ben Webster, who went to a teacher. Now, this was long after Ben Webster was an established star. In fact, it was rather late in Ben Webster's life. He went to a classical teacher to learn technique. And it turns out the teacher was an old fan of Ben Webster's. And you know, Ben has this great wide, fat, breathy tone.
Right.
It sounds like there's as much breath coming around the reed as through it,
That's
right?
That's right.
And this teacher was a fan of Ben Webster's. But when Ben came to him to study technique, and the teacher said, play something for me, and Ben played for him. And the teacher said, Mr. Webster, you do everything wrong, but it's beautiful. And don't you change anything. He wouldn't touch him. He refused. He said, I will not touch what you are doing, and for heaven's sake, don't go to anybody else.
Well, I think, like for instance, I got a book coming out the first of the year, and it's been so many fellows that's interested in knowing what approach I take. So musically, in a book form, this book might explain a lot too, because there'll be a lot of fellows I probably won't run into, but the book will probably teach them musically the approach.
There is a story of the bumblebee that has frequently been attached to Wes Montgomery. That according to the laws of aerodynamics, of wing surface to body weight, that it's aerodynamically impossible for the bumblebee to fly. But the bee, not knowing this, flies. Wes Montgomery is
flying, right?
is flying, just as unknowingly as the bumblebee. Wes, play something for us.
Okay.
California Nights.
Right.
California Nights.
Great.
jazz. Playing is your
was how-
passport to the world. God bless you.
It's a pleasure. Jim.
Thank you for giving us this time today.
Beautiful. Pleasure.
You're beautiful, and guard your thumb.
Oh,
Guard your
I
thumb.
believe that.
Our program is People in Jazz, and our man in jazz today has been Wes Montgomery, guitarist by appointment to the world. This is Jim Rockwell. Good night.